Well, Josh, thanks for joining us here today for Norfolk Currents podcast. I'm really glad to have you. For those folks who aren't familiar with Josh runs Lava Presents, which is a local concert promoter. Josh, can you tell us a little bit about what Lava Presents does?
Yeah, so Lava Presents originally started actually as Lava Music Festival, which was a larger music festival than what anyone currently familiar with Lava Presents is aware of. In 2015, we had 2 years of that under our belt, had some pretty crazy bands come through, Minus the Bear, Charles Bradley, Fits in the Tantrums, Tokyo Police Club. It was really just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then kind of after 2 very interesting years, it switched up a little bit into more what Lava had really grown into, which is the current form of Lava Presents. I believe we announced the change in probably March 2017. So we're in our 8th year now of Lava, though, from the very beginning in 2015. And pretty much we're primarily a local, regional, smaller touring band, concert, and event promoter. Mm-hmm. We revolve around having a series of Lava branded events or just events with titles such as Grilled Out or Norfunk Fest. And then we also put on shows throughout the rest of the year. Local bands, touring bands, regional bands. We have some bigger shows occasionally, have some fun stuff coming up. And yeah, we're just really all about supporting the local community and giving some people some fun stuff to do.
Well, it seems like a really interesting line of work to be in. You get to go to all kinds of concerts and see lots of bands. How did you get into this? When did your passion for this start?
I'll give this one to my brother. He was a promoter before me, and so by the time I was 11, I was going to shows at the Norva all the time, going to all-age high school shows, occasionally even working the door, taking people's cash when I was 11 or 12 years old at one of my brother's shows. Wow. And that was pretty much like how I started getting into live music. My mom was really cool, let me go to the Norva all the time. I was in middle school getting dropped off, just seeing all sorts of shows. And I really just, at a young age, got really into music. I was listening to it from the time I was even like 8 or 9, just finding bands that I liked, largely through my brother and just other stuff. And that was kind of what spiraled. And by the time I was in high school, I started booking shows when I was in 10th grade and under a different promoter name. And some of the bands that I still work with today have members that I was working with in 2007. And so today is actually, we're 3 days away from my 16-year show booking anniversary. I'm weird with my dates, and August 10th was the first show that I ever booked.
That's awesome.
And I just love music, and it's truly like just been fun for me ever since I was literally 15 booking shows.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't realize that you guys had been, or you personally had been, in the business for so long. Did you get any formal education around promoting music or the music business and that side of things?
Sure.
That side of things?
Yeah. So in high school, that was really more, there was kind of a hole in the scene for all age high school shows. And there, I had friends that were in high school bands. So that's how I kind of got into booking shows to fill the space. Yeah. And well, I loved music, but my goal was not to go necessarily be working professionally in the music business. Mm-hmm. But 3 years into that, I'm a senior in high school. I was planning to be a meteorologist my whole life. And then I was like, maybe I should look into some music schools or the music business because I truly loved what I was doing. So I ended up going to Berklee College of Music in Boston and studying music business there. And that's kind of where I dove even deeper into, getting into the concerts and live entertainment and event space.
That's awesome. And when you went to school for music business, was there anything you learned that you look back on the things you were doing in high school and be like, wow, that was totally out of left field, or, something I totally wouldn't do knowing things you learned in college?
The short answer is absolutely. Nothing specifically comes to mind, but social media as an example. I was using MySpace to promote my shows in 2007 and 2008 and putting flyers on lunchroom tables in my high school. And, that was largely literally how I started putting it out there. And so now with obviously the whole change of social media, the way that people learn about things, who they look to, such as NFK didn't exist. Norfolk Currents wasn't around then. We had Alt Daily. Alt Daily wasn't as focused on event promotion, which rest in peace Alt Daily, and I love Alt Daily and Jesse Scatia and Hannah and the whole gang. Yeah. But there's different ways that people take in stuff, learn how to find what's out there. And so I think just the shift in the general promotion is the biggest change. But I'm sure if I dug really deep, I'd find some crazy stuff that I did when I was 15 years old and say, whoa.
You're still putting up flyers all over town, right?
Yeah. So almost every show that I have, I print posters with a local business, College Avenue Print Shop. I hang posters in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Portsmouth. For larger shows, I'm hanging more posters. But every single show that I have someone that says, oh yeah, I heard about the show because I saw the Lava Mini Fest poster up in a local business, or I was walking down the street. I had no clue what Lava was, but I thought the artwork was cool. So I took a picture or used the QR code, and then I can see how many people have seen it. But there's always people that have no clue what's going on. And then they just see, like, the artwork catches their eye, which is something I really, really love, finding cool new artists to work with, both music artists and graphic artists, to design posters. And that's a big way of reaching new people. And it's more than just a few. It varies from show to show, but I've reached lots of people as just from walking down Granby Street in downtown Norfolk, where we're at now, and seeing a poster and stuff like that.
So you're paying not just a lot of musical artists, then you're also paying a lot of graphic artists to help you do posters and get that artwork in together, right?
Absolutely. It's a cool way to meet new people, to work with different local artists. I've worked with an artist in Germany that I randomly found through my Instagram algorithm, and I was like, your artwork is cool. Do you want to make a concert poster? And I truly just love the art aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And, every show is going to do better. It's going to be promoted better, reach new people better, if you have cool artwork to go along with it. And, a show that doesn't have the artwork is not going to be able to be put out there in the same way that a show with really amazing artwork, like my Lava Halloween Extravaganza shirt right here, if you don't have that. And so it's been fun for me. I've made new friends. I get to work with some of my best friends. And it's equally as important to just having good music on a bill, in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounds like the artwork transcends the platform, right? It goes to paper, it goes to digital, it goes to t-shirts. I don't know, eye-catching no matter where you're at, right?
Absolutely. I mean, just as important as having a really good band on a bill, you have to have a really good poster for more people to find out there's a really good band playing. And it all just cohesively goes together.
So that brings up a great point. I'd say you have a reputation for bringing new and interesting acts to the area, a lot of bands who people maybe haven't heard of before. How are you finding all of these, bands and musical acts to bring to Norfolk?
Sure. So there's really a lot of different channels of how it goes down. Definitely over the years, I've personally just my name's gotten out there just through different bands coming through. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many different bands I've booked over the last 8 years. I'm sure it's a couple hundred. And so, they're coming from all over. I personally went to school in Boston, so I have friends and connections there where they might be like, hey, hit up Josh when you're going to Norfolk, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. I also booked some shows in Richmond, which the Lava brand is less strong in Richmond because that's not where I'm located or doing my events, which help for the brand. But it's, more, I want to help a friend out who's trying to just play, needs a show in Richmond but doesn't have a contact to move forward. So people hit me up literally on social media. They email me. They have mutual references. There's lots of booking agents that hit me that represent all sorts of bands, from a band that's no different than a local band playing in Norfolk tonight, all the way up to, the Taylor Swifts. I'm not booking shows of that level, but there's agents that represent everyone, and they're constantly reaching out to promoters and venues to say, hey, can you book my band? I personally am just, as much as I like booking live music, I'm probably even more obsessed with listening to music on an aggressive way, where every day I wake up before I'm even out of bed, my alarm clock's going off, I turn music on, and that's just the constant throughout my day. And that means I'm scouring the internet, looking on Bandcamp, Spotify, different playlists, music blogs, just constantly finding new bands. When I find a band that I like, sometimes I even look at their related artists to see if there's more music like that I can dive deeper into. And I found some of my favorite bands out there. And, what's exciting about booking a smaller local regional scene, where most of the bands I'm booking are not coming to Norfolk and getting out very many people, if any. Some are. There's definitely some really exciting shows coming up, like Deerhoof, Frankie Cosmos of Montreal, Sheer Mag. And these are bands that people will know and will buy tickets to without specifically a promoter or a local band saying, come to see my show. But most of the bands that I have been booking and I'm currently booking are newer. And for every huge band that's out there that might be your favorite band, there's probably a dozen or more bands similar that are equally as good, better, or almost as good to that band. And so it's always exciting when you find a band with 500 monthly listeners on Spotify. We're like, wow, this band is unreal. But they're never going to be much different than they are, but they're just so good. And so that to me is kind of what's exciting, gets me out of bed every day, and just why I love what I do so much.
So hundreds of bands that you've booked, there's probably thousands more that want to be booked by you or you've listened to and think are cool. How are you keeping all that organized? Do you have some kind of list of bands and contacts or database there?
Spreadsheets are a big thing for me. I have a couple different like master spreadsheets that I use to kind of keep my life organized. All the shows that I have with the shows that are working, I highlight them in different colors. I have another spreadsheet that kind of keeps track of things that need to happen for shows, such as getting a poster to design, printing posters, making sure I run an ad for shows that I'm running an ad for, reaching out to Norfolk Currents or WHO to say, hey, could we try to do some sort of promotion together for this? And so I keep track of it there. A lot of it's in my head. I'm really meticulously organized with my Spotify organizational playlists. So I make playlists every month of any music I'm listening to like put songs into there. Cool. I have some playlists of local artists in a playlist and things like that. I do have some lists of just like bands, and it's more so I call it my band ideas. So like if there's specifically a band that I like or I know I want to book at some point or I've reached out to but I haven't heard back from recently, I try to keep organized. Like a lot of what I do is really, I love music. I want to see bands play. I want to see some of my friends come to town that are in bands that maybe I haven't hung out with since college, but they're in a band and they're touring. And so what better way to book my buddy Matt's band in Norfolk when he lives in New Jersey? We went to college together for 4 years, and then he comes down and plays a show and we get to hang out. It's a win in every possible way. And, I selfishly do it for me. This is just a big joke.
So you're booking, it sounds like some big acts and at really big shows, and then you're doing a lot of smaller shows and smaller bands that are probably not as profitable, right? And so you've got a full mix. What motivates you then to do all those smaller shows instead of just doing the big shows? So
I look at the bigger picture and the greater good. Something that I feel really proud of and strong about is, I've built a Lava brand where, coming to a Lava event especially, which is really how Lava started in events, that's what my focus has been. There's so much more that comes with it, and the Lava events can't happen without the Lava shows. Right. So, I kind of just look at time, the bigger picture, reaching new people. If I'm promoting more shows, I'm ultimately going to reach new people and more people, which are then going to learn about the Lava Halloween Extravaganza or the Lava Mini Fest. And it's really kind of just the long game. Some shows are better than others. Some shows I try not to lose any money on, but can't say that doesn't happen occasionally. Yep. Some shows are winners, but it all kind of builds together, and it's almost like the snowball effect where you can't just look at like the one little picture. It's really important to look at the overall scene. The events wouldn't work if there wasn't shows happening here, because then you'd have like a scene you're trying to tap into on one night 5 or 6 times out of the year that exists 360 more days of the year. And if it's not being stimulated, it's not necessarily going to be as active. People are going to be as hungry to go out. Maybe someone who's seen one of the many local bands play and likes them and would see them again isn't going to know about them or come out to see them if, they're only being booked by the promoter that someone might follow. Not that I'm the only promoter in the area by any means, right. But if someone's following this band, they play in a scene, I book that band sometimes, and then only book them once, maybe they don't know about them or find the next band that they like. So it's really all about just kind of, it's building the scene. It's more, a lot of people come to my events, especially for, maybe you've been to one of the 16 previous Lava Mini Fests or 10 of them, or you come to Grill It Out every year, or you don't even know what Lava is, but you come to the Lava Halloween Extravaganza every year because it's just ridiculous. And so it's trying to build the cultural experience about it, because really on the local ground roots level, it's just as much building culture as it is building a music scene. And those kind of go hand in hand on the level that we're talking about primarily.
Yeah, I've got to give you kudos on that. I think what you're doing is definitely helping build the local culture, local scene. And it's definitely in a very different place it is now than it was, maybe 16 years ago. How have you seen the local scene and local music culture change over the past decade or more?
Yeah. So, I was really involved in the local music scene from And, and we're talking specific genres, because I had some of my close friends now were in the local music scene and what I'm about to talk about. And I didn't even know who they were for 10 years. And so, when I was younger, heavily into the scene, which is more the punk, emo, hardcore, pop punk, that world. And that was from 2004 even all the way until I went to college in 2010. And I was at that point learning, getting into other music. So you see different venues come up. You see different bands come up. There are something that is really unique to our scene that I think is really cool is there's several bands that have been playing music together for over 13, 14 years. I mean, Your Jovian is just one of many local bands. They've been around since 2008. They've had some member changes. It all revolves around Elliot, who is a staple in our scene too. But, we have several bands that have been actively playing music for a decade more and that are still active in the scene in different communities, which is really cool to see. Audio Strobe Light, who played my first show in 2007. Yeah. And that was their 2-year anniversary show. So they've been around even longer. I mean, they're not as active, but they still write and play music together. But you get different bands that come in and out of the scene. My goal is always, because I got into music so young, almost every single one of my shows is all ages. So it's all about trying to reach a younger population as well. I want high school kids to come to the shows, because if you're 14, 15, your parents let you come to a show, or maybe you're in a band and you get to play a show, you're in the scene. And then you start learning about other bands in the scene. And maybe instead of getting into, the next Tame Impala, you get into Berries. Or maybe instead of getting into Mac DeMarco, you get into Community Witch, or like whatever, local band you might be able to find and be like, wow, this band is really, really good. And so for me, it's important to try to reach younger people, because that's how the scene keeps going. And we need like new bands to get into the scene, which are often younger, but sometimes older. I'll give just a quick comparison. On the Lava Mini Fest coming up on August 26th, we have a great brand new band called Feminine Death. And they're all older than I am. And then just the other night at Chicho's, I had a newer solo artist named Chase Evers play, who is, I actually don't know how old Chase is, but I know he's under 21 and over 18. And so, he's 18, 19, but a new band in the scene. And, that's just two opposite ends of the spectrum. But having new people playing music gets new people out to shows to learn about other bands, to learn about other events, to learn about a place that's maybe having shows such as the, like Lava Rooftop series at Assembly and everything like that. It's important. And even looking at the opposite end of the spectrum, what's also important is having, larger venues that are booking bands that people want to see that are relevant to the localized scene. Because, you look at a market such as Richmond, who has multiple venues of multiple different levels that are all booking all levels of shows. You get lots and lots of active bands in the scene there, local bands. And then you get more people coming out to shows. And, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone here, and this is something I actively and am openly wanting to work on with ODU. But ODU is not VCU when you look at the arts. I'm not saying the quality of the program, but just the sheer volume of VCU art students that are hungry for music and going out to shows, and VCU bands coming out. It's pretty crazy. And then when you look at ODU and ODU students that are coming out to shows and ODU bands that exist, which are far and few between, if any, it really shows a stark difference. And it's important, because I think the reason that it works so well in Richmond there is because of the different size venues that you have. So if you're listening to a band on Spotify that's not going to play the Norva because they're not big enough, or play the Pavilion in Portsmouth, or maybe Elevation at the Beach, or maybe one of these venues isn't booking the band you want to see, they're not coming here. And then there's just not a more hungry audience of people looking for music, which ultimately benefits shows all the way from, things going on, house shows, if those exist in the area, which some do, where 25 people are going to a basement, all the way up to the amphitheater where you have 20-some thousand people coming, and everything benefits because it's the same ecosystem.
So it sounds like the scene here is still missing a few key parts. Maybe some of the collegiate scene, maybe some venues. Is there other things you think that like we could be doing or you would like to see locally that maybe aren't here yet for music culture?
So, to say we're missing key parts and hating on the scene is not at all the way that was intended to come across. Sure. It's more just a comparison. Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely ways to make our scene better. Something that's hurt the scene, I'll say, is there's been so many spots, even just since I've been actively back in the scene since 2014, that have kind of come and gone. And not having the consistency definitely hurts, because then you build something and then something happens and it goes away. And then you build something else and something happens and then it goes away. And while sure, maybe someone started following Lava during that time period, it's not the same as Lava goes from doing a bunch of shows at Toast to doing a bunch of shows here to doing a bunch of shows there. And Lava's consistent in that sense, but not having a consistent venue, it hurts. And, we really lack in the smaller venues here. And so having, a stronger, smaller venue ecosystem would be important in this area. And that would definitely help with the scene.
Cool. So switching gears a bit, you know a lot of bands really well personally. You've engaged with a lot. Have you seen any crazy antics from bands kind of backstage before the shows, or what's maybe the best story you've seen from bands, before the show, on stage, anything like that?
Of Montreal, who are coming up here on September 20th at the Bunker, they are one of the most wild live bands that I've seen. They have so many crazy props. Bands have dressing rooms, and then they basically have like a dressing room to get ready for the crazy different costumes that come out on stage and everything. I mean, something like of shows that I've specifically booked, that's definitely one of the more unique shows, and really like operations of what they're doing backstage for the stage show is really cool. And they used to bring like animals and stuff out on stage. They've been around for a really long time.
Right.
In like early 2000s, I remember I have a buddy in college who was telling me, like, yeah, I saw Montreal, and they brought out a 9-foot anaconda on the stage, and there's like handlers there with it, and it just seems wild to me. They don't do stuff quite like that anymore, but their costumes are pretty nuts and everything, so that's always fun to see. And then I would also have to say like Dan Deacon is just absolutely wild. I booked him 2 different times. We literally had line grilled out at Toast last year in 2022, and he had people run out of the parking lot, down the sidewalk, back into the street, or back into down the sidewalk and into the venue. And this is while the show's going on with, a couple hundred people there.
Wow.
And that is just good, pure, chaotic fun in an organized manner.
Yeah, lots of energy there.
Lots of energy. So, it's really some stuff like that. Backstage, I don't have as much of crazy comments to say, but you never know.
What bands are you listening to right now that haven't come here yet that you are really stoked to try to bring here in the future?
So, I constantly, the way I try to find new bands, if I hear something that I like, I'm often going to immediately sit down and email the band. If it's a really tiny band, I might just message them on Instagram and say, hey, I'm a promoter in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm a fan. Let's come here. I've made random internet friendships through literally doing just that. One of my favorite artists, who's kind of a half singer-songwriter, half ambient artist, which I listen to a lot of instrumental piano related ambient music, just as a personal interest. Her name's Gia Margaret. And I randomly, just through the internet, reached out to her, like, hey, I love your music. I suggested an artist to her that I thought was really similar and someone that she would like to her music that she had no idea existed. And then we've made this internet Instagram random friendship where we just chat about music. And this is a larger artist. She has 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, right. But I hope to book her one day. And that's someone who I'm like personally really excited for, and just a really random way of connecting to someone. A lot of it is through email. Obviously, that's my life here outside of spreadsheets. It's just email. But Gia Margaret would definitely be a show that I'm really looking forward to. I traveled recently to go see some shows on the way home from another event that I do separate from Lava in Boston. I went to New York and saw some jazz shows that I'm really into, and that was just unreal. And so, yeah, that's probably 2 quick answers there. You've
booked probably almost every venue in Hampton Roads or close to it. What's your favorite venue to go see a show at here in Norfolk or the greater 757?
That's a really good question. I love the Norva. I think I speak for almost every concert going Hampton Roads. The Norva's great. I've been to a lot of venues. I went to school in Boston, which has a lot of great venues. I've interned overseas. I traveled to see music, and the Norva just tops it. It's just such a good room to see a show in. It's my personal favorite. I don't know if it's because I started going to shows there when I was in 6th grade, and I've been to just an unbelievable amount of shows over the years because that's just who I am. But I love the Norva, and I think seeing shows there is just something, can't beat that.
Is there anything specific that you think makes the Norva pop more than other venues?
This is just my personal opinion, and maybe I speak for other people. I'm a fan of longer, more narrow venues, whereas while I love the National in Richmond, the National is more of like a wider venue, not as long as the Norva. So that's just my personal preference. I like more like a hall. And I also love how dark it is. I just think a dark room when you're seeing a show is how a show is meant to be seen from us, all genres. I personally like to stand. Even if I was at the symphony, I'd probably want to stand. I know I can't do that. I love classical music though, and that was something that I would stand in the back if I could. Most people, that's not a shared thing. But I think the darker the room is really what makes a concert nicer, because then you can be more focused on what's going on in front of you, less distractions in the crowd.
So hearing you say you're really into the jazz shows you just saw or classical music, I'm not sure I've ever seen one of those on the lineup for Lava. Do you have any plans to bring some kind of classical or jazz show to the area?
So on the classical side, I would even specifically say contemporary classical music, as me as just an avid music listener, is the genre that I'm like deep into as just an individual. An artist like Oliver Arnolds is someone who, at a time where I was solely listening to pop punk and hardcore and music with people screaming, I heard one of my friends randomly found Oliver Arnolds on some sort of like ballet dance video. My friend in high school was into ballet. I think she danced or something, and was like, yo, Josh, check this song out. And I've been obsessed with Oliver Arnolds since 2008, when it was not even related in any way. Side story, I'm a classical cello player. I started playing in 5th grade all the way through college. And so, maybe that's where my interest stems from. So I hope to book some contemporary classical music and, artists that I particularly am just like listening to day in and day out. But, that translates over to ambient music. And this year I've kind of delved a little more into booking ambient bands or ambient artists. There's quite a few ambient artists in our community that I knew a lot of them, but the scene has become more active. Some people who used to play are playing again. New people have moved to the area. I mean, we have almost a dozen ambient artists here, which is kind of a similar vibe to it. Crosses over from contemporary classical to that. So I definitely hope to start. I've put on some shows. I have some more coming in the fall that are ambient leaning. Jazz, I have not really dove into jazz. There's just some pre-existing just jazz shows that happen in the area. And that's definitely something as I grow and expand with my business and future endeavors, I'll definitely dive some into, but more on the local level. I'm not really booking much smaller jazz bands at this time, but not to say I don't love jazz. I listen to it a lot as well.
So of the shows you book, it sounds like some of them you've done a lot of times. I think you mentioned Lava Mini Fest you've done 16 times. What are the big shows that you do every year or long-running shows for folks who aren't familiar with Lava Fest?
Yep. So if I had to summarize the Lava events in a sentence or two, we have the Lava Mini Fest. The next one is coming up on August 26th. This is pretty much all local, small touring, regional event. The upcoming Lava Mini Fest has bands from Norfolk, Richmond, I want to say some with ties to Charlottesville, DC, basically mid-Atlantic based. There's 2 alternating stages. It's a 7-hour event. Music starts and just bands alternate. There's just a couple minutes between each band. This event happens twice a year. Like I said, the next one is on August 26th. All of my events as of right now are at Toast Parablanco. They're outdoors. So the Lava Mini Fest has gone on since 2016, actually. And, it's just fun to say this one because it started by... I loosely had an idea of doing an outdoor event at Toast. And then there's a band that I just have to give so much of what I learned about music, what I know today, and just a huge part of who I am is Midnight Snack. They're friends of mine from Berkeley, some of my best friends that I met, one of my favorite bands. I was booking a show for them in November 2016. My buddies at TBA Productions, when they were active, were booking a show the same night in November 2016. It was a similar enough show. I hit up a band playing their show to ask if they wanted to play with Midnight Snack, and they're like, well, we're already playing this show. And then it kind of made sense to combine our shows, and we went from each having 2 bands, so then there were 4 bands, and then it went from 4 bands, so then there were 8 bands, and then it turned into the Lava Mini Fest. And that's kind of what every good event, how it happens, especially on this level where you have an idea, and then it just naturally and organically comes together. So The 17th Lava Mini Fest is getting ready to happen in just a few weeks. So that's Lava Mini Fest. I put on Grilled Out, which is kind of an indie rock, summer cookout themed, psychedelic vibe, surf rock leaning indie rock event. That happens every year, usually around the same time. This year is literally back to back. I also had North Funk Fest, which is, a funk jam band leaning event to hit into that scene a little bit. And then I also put on the Lava Halloween Extravaganza, which is just a really wild event. Original local bands all do one-off cover sets. The theme is Smorgasbord. They can do whatever they want as long as the band name is big enough that most people recognize it. Mm-hmm. So, I've had Britney Spears, Beastie Boys, System of a Down, Earth, Wind and Fire, the B-52s, Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix. And these are people that are saying, okay, it's late August, it's September, let's rehearse 3 or 4 times and learn a Rolling Stones set, which is really fun. It brings a lot of new people together. Last year I had a Talking Heads group. 9 people played in the Talking Heads group, most of which had never even met prior to coming together to do the Talking Heads. And some of that came together from whether it was me or someone else posting, hey, we need a bass player. Hey, we need this. Or my buddy Austin, who works at Vinyl Days and he's a singer of Dead Friends. I was in there hanging posters one day, talking to him casually about the Halloween show. And I was like, yeah, there's a band trying to get together like a Talking Heads thing. And I wasn't even pitching it to him to be in the band. Not that I was like against it. Yeah. He was like, oh, dude, I would love to do that. And I connected him to the band, and then he ended up crushing it as a singer for the Talking Heads group. So the Lava Halloween Extravaganza is really just a fun, wild time. It'll be October 28th at Toast this year.
It sounds like that's a melting pot of bands in a sense. You've got members from, make new bands for one night only. Is that right?
Yeah, 100% this past year. While sometimes it is just a pre-existing band, those 5 members that do a band together, a lot of times it is really a collaboration effort. Sometimes it's friends doing it. Sometimes it's literal strangers coming together to do it. This past year, there's about 35 different individual band members that participated to come up with 7 different bands. Wow. And it's just something special. It's really grown into something that people do every year. I definitely think there's people that know all about the Lava Halloween Extravaganza. They've maybe been almost every year, but they might not even attend another Lava show, which is definitely something I would like to change. Mm-hmm. But different people have different interests. And, that's kind of working on a local grassroots level, figuring out how to connect and engage with those people that are finding out about something that maybe appeals to their taste because it's cover bands a little more, and get them to be interested in seeing a really good band in an original setting. That's a challenge that I have in figuring that out. Not to say I haven't reached lots of new people that come to the Halloween Extravaganza and then come out later to a show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Halloween show is it's a true spectacle in the most organized, professional way. It's just straight up ridiculous.
Are you guys going to continue to grow, just do more shows? What's coming next for you guys?
Yeah, so, coming up this fall, I have a ton of shows coming up. I've already started announcing several, but I probably have almost 24 more shows I'm currently working on. 24 more shows between September all the way into November and December right now. Most weekends there's, if not one, multiple shows going on, sometimes even 2 in one night. Wow. And, so on the show side, the scene is really active right now. And I work with several different venues in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, and also in Richmond some. So I definitely have been booking more shows, and I'm really trying to commit hard and figure out a way to reach more new people, primarily through events. It's really fun. It's like a catch-22 where you have a product that people would like, but they don't know it exists, but they would like it if they knew that it exists. So how do you get them to know that they know that it exists, so that then they know that they like it? Then they come out with their group of friends to see, and then they come repeatedly. That we have a lot of repeat customers, which is awesome. And I don't even want to call customers, is not the right word, music diehard fans. So, I'm really working on growing my events, finding new fans to reach new people, and leaning into book more shows. I have a few fun projects coming up that'll be announced later this year that will really be exciting and hopefully really amazing for the music community. I'm working on some other ideas, even out of the area, that aren't even as much Lava related, and is more just through my professional experience, things that I want to try to do in different cities. And so, I'm kind of growing professionally and branching out a little bit, while also it's really important to me to stay true to what the Lava brand is locally, which is local, regional, booking fun things that are exciting for people to do and find new things.
So when you talk about reaching new music fans, what does that look like? Does that mean trying to book more diverse genres across more spectrums that maybe you haven't hit on as strongly before? Or communication ways to find and reach those folks? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I would say that it's figuring out ways, which, being a promoter, I'm a marketer, but at the same time, there's so much that goes into being a promoter, which is, what I would call myself. There's way more than just marketing and reaching the people, because there's all the behind the scenes work. And so marketing, admittedly, is not my number one strong suit. And so there's lots of ways that I can be working with other professionals. I know how to help to better market, to help to grow and reach new people. I admittedly don't do a lot of ad buying, because I found over the years it's hard to reach people, to tell them something they don't know through an ad. Then when you put a big name up there, if you say Taylor Swift is coming to town, or the Killers or whatever, and you run an ad for it, people immediately click, click, click. But when you say come see Barry's or come to the Lava Mini Fest, and even though I have a really sick poster for it, it might not click for them. And so I found I feel like I've wasted money in the past, actually. And so just trying to figure out how to actually better optimize what I do, working through my email list, do better social media, creating better content, and figuring out ways like that to reach new audiences. I'm constantly trying to tap into the college scene. This past year, I partnered with ODU Arts to create a new event called Yes Fest. And the goal of that was, hey, there are X amount of ODU students in Hampton Roads. This many of them, several thousand, live within, I don't know the exact number, but more than a couple thousand live within a mile of ODU. They're not going to shows. They're hardly coming out. You could be even on the ODU campus on a beautiful spring day and sometimes be walking down Monarch Way or through the campus and not even realize you're on the campus of 25,000 students. And I want to change that through music on my end. I actively have posted on my personal social media, on Lava social media, saying, hey, Hampton Roads music scene, friends, are there bands at ODU? Send them my way. And there's only one or two bands that I know of, and it's really more of a local band that's not ODU related with one singular member that might be an ODU student. And in one of the situations that I can think of, it's like more of an adult ODU student, not even like an 18, 19, 20-year-old student that's in a college band. And so figuring out how to tap into ODU, I really think could not only change the local music scene, because there's definitely students at ODU that like music that's similar to what I'm booking, that just haven't found the local scene to know that there's shows coming through here that's their vibe, that they would like to come out and see. So, I think ODU really, and that also means TCC and everything too. It is definitely a missing piece to the local music scene and probably the local economy for way more than just the music scene. Mm-hmm. But through Yes Fest, the goal is to bring a music festival on campus at ODU. We had 23 bands playing just to reach new people, because we're like, this is literally on Monarch Way, in an ODU art gallery and an ODU theater. And we use Borjo as the box office, and it's all right there. And so the goal is to get people at ODU where they might be living to show them, hey, this goes on elsewhere too. And this event was fully open to the public. But the idea behind it is tap into the ODU market. There's ODU art students. There's an ODU art student, Chris Cameron, who made the poster for it and did an amazing job. Hire her. And, it's just finding the pockets, but, that takes a larger effort. And so I'm really trying to hone in and focus on reaching new people to ultimately grow the brand.
So as you say, snowballing the music scene and helping to build that and putting way more shows on your calendar. Is your team growing? Do you have a lot of folks who are helping out with Lava Presents behind the scenes and helping to make all this happen?
So as of now, I'm a madman and I'm working by myself, but I'm about ready to try to bring in some help. I do work with other people to help me create content, because I definitely am not a videographer or photographer and filming like any of the recap videos or reels that I've been doing. I'm slowly getting more involved in that, and I'm getting ready to hopefully hire like a part-time person to help me with different responsibilities and tasks as I gain new responsibilities with more things going on. I have to start delegating and passing off work, which when you're a business owner and you've done everything yourself for your whole life, and you wake up every morning and do it all, it's just a constant. I always have something to do. I know it's holding me back to not have more help, because I'm not able to get as much done in a given day as I'd like to. So that time has officially come. If someone's listening to this and you have interest and think you'd be amazing, this is not an advertisement, but feel free to reach out to me. Lava Presents. It's in the future, because I definitely need some help. And until I get the right help, it's going to some extent, hold me back.
Awesome. So for those folks who are maybe watching, listening, hearing about Lava Presents for the first time, what's the best way for them to stay in the loop with what's going on and to find out about upcoming shows?
Yep. So if you, first and foremost, we have an email list. You can sign up for our email list on our website, which lists all of our shows, has more information, has tickets to everything. Lava, Lava presents.com is our website. Our mailing list sign up is right through there. You can follow us on social media at Instagram and Facebook, Lava, Lava, Lava Presents. That would be the best way to keep up with everything that we're doing. We're active. Everyone, the whole community makes posts on it. The email list, when I send out periodic email blasts, when we announce big shows, that would definitely be the best way to keep up with what's going on.
Is there anything you want to plug here before we wrap up?
Yeah, we just have a ton of upcoming shows, and the way that we can continue to do what we do is by one, people coming to shows, and two, if you like what we're doing, telling your friends. Share our stuff, follow us, let people know you're going to shows, bring your friends out to the shows. And so the shows. On August 19th, we have The Hooks and Dan and the Fan Band at Back Bay in Virginia Beach. And then August 26th, we have the Lava Mini Fest, which is kind of what I call the closeout of the summer. It's the weekend before Labor Day. It's the last event of the summer that we have at Toast. That's going to be just a banger. Topo Chico is one of our sponsors. And I don't know about you, but I love Topo Chico, and they're just out there giving Topo Chico out to people. They say we want people to be hydrated. So, that's always super fun for me. And then 3 in September, that are the big ones. And super exciting is, Deerhoof, just such a long running staple in the crazy indie experimental scene, are coming to the Bunker, followed by Montreal, and then Frankie Cosmos with the Lava Halloween Extravaganza announcement coming up here soon. But mark your calendars, October 28th, and everything else can be found on lavapresents.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Josh, and thanks for what you're doing for the music community.
You too, Paul. Thank you. Norfolk Currents is really just important to the scene and not just the music scene. So you're doing a lot of work here too. So thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.